right, I'm going to call this meeting Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 of the Personnel Administration Committee, PAC, more commonly known. I do want to make a note, as I've indicated to Councilor Hawk and also separately to Councilor Spoonmore, is that today I have a hard stop personally for myself at 12:45. So my goal is to get us as far as I can through there and then potentially hand off to any remaining business to the other two council members if necessary. But let's go ahead and start. We've called to order. We have an agenda before you today. Ms. Purdy here with item number 2. This is continued from a previous meeting where we took some input from other elected officials and department heads regarding a request for a new position into a department, public information. Ms. Purdy, I believe you have sent a change based on some of that input, and I wanted to invite you to maybe talk through some of your thoughts on the change.
Certainly. And I don't know if Michelle's going to be able to share the document, but what I did was hearing the concerns about how this position needs to be respectful of our independent elected officers and of our various department heads. So I made some clarification because I don't think that was ever the intention, was that this person would be able to just kind of go and do whatever they wanted. And so if Kim has it up, yeah, awesome. So what I did was, in an attempt to clarify how this person works, I made some changes. So serving as a data source for participating departments of Monroe County government. And so if that department is not interested in sharing information, then this person will not receive that information. So I wanted to make sure that that was clear for everyone. And so we kind of went through and regarding the maintenance of records, it would be those records that have been shared with this person. And I've identified the civil government as the main entity that probably be using this person based on the fact that the courts kind of have their own hierarchy in play. And so it doesn't say that the person might not reach out to the courts at times, but the court does not have any obligation. And then this person is going to be specific to the Board of Commissioners. We're not going to be able to have this person responding to multiple entities. And so again, I just want to reiterate that this person is going to be would be an employee of the Board of Commissioners. And the Board of Commissioners would be the ones who would ultimately make the decisions about what they're going to do or not do. So then Michelle, if you'll come on down a little bit, I think. Yeah, so I know that there was some concerns about the need that this person that it's included in here, that they should have a knowledge of local government. And some people interpreted that to be, and I think I actually had county government, and it did not mean specifically to Monroe County, although that's always even better. But I think that it's imperative that this person who is going to be working with different elected officials, possibly other departments, it's going to be imperative that they understand how county government works and that we are not a top-down structure. We have a multitude of different layers, and we don't get to go kind of running roughshod over another department just because we think it's a good idea. So that's the reason I thought it's important for us to have someone who understands our local government structure. I also wanted to clarify the statement about ability to provide public access to or maintain confidentiality. And this language is generally in all of our job descriptions. However, I wanted to make a specific point that this is going to be to that departmental information that has been shared and provided to them in the course of their duty. And they have to maintain that information and the records according to state and federal requirements. So this isn't really anything different other than I've just made, for any department, we all have that responsibility for the information that we have. However, this person is going to have access potentially, if it's been shared with them from another department, and they have the obligation to maintain the confidentiality of that information as well. And then I think I came down and made, can you come on down, Kim? Okay, this person's going to provide reports as requested by a majority of vote. This is the other thing I wanted to make sure that was clear, because we can't have this person just kind of getting pulled in multiple areas. So, because everybody has great ideas. So the intention here is that they would provide reports as requested by a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners and the County Council. That's to help make sure that the message that's going out is the message that is agreed upon by the majority of those particular boards. I wanted to come on down, and then the responsibility is the Board of Commissioners, and so what I was thinking here is they need to be, they need to have one boss, and that would be the Board of Commissioners. And let's see here. Community relations, but okay. Incumbent performs the duties according to a flexible customary schedule. Express need for data points, community relations by the Board of Commissioners, and as requested and approved by the Board of Commissioners for the Monroe County Council. I'm not married to that language. What I'm trying to say there is, if the council has requested some work from this particular person by majority, we have to have a mechanism in place in which that the work is triaged. And so since this position would come under the Board of Commissioners, I think the Board of Commissioners would need to make the final decision as to, which project they're working on at that particular point in time. Not married to it, but that was just my attempt to try to find some way to ensure that this person isn't overwhelmed right off the start. And this incumbent, I wanted to clarify this also because of the concern about the different departments, is that they're going to work with the owner of the data and the information. And they're going to do that before they present anything to myself and the elected official or the department head of that owned data, and the Board of Commissioners or the County Council, if the council is the one who's requested the data and information, will approve the report prior to submission or communication of information. It's going to be imperative that this person is trusted by not only our community, but also by our departments, and how they treat the information that they are provided is going to be extremely important. And it's important that you governing bodies have the authority to look at it and say, this maybe is not appropriate for public release, or this is appropriate for public release. We appreciate the information, that kind of situation. And I think that is the last of the changes I made in an attempt to clarify how this position would work.
Let me jump in and just ask a clarifying question that came up a lot in the last meeting.
Sure.
If I am, and I'm going to pick on the recorder, if I am the recorder, I'm not mandated as the recorder to, this person's not my spokesperson. I'm not mandated to do what, to take specific action with them. However, if I'm the recorder and I want to work and participate, I could, but this is not my new voice replacement.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is not anybody's voice. It will be the commissioner's voice as per their job description, but anybody else, they most certainly have their own voice. If they want to use this person, they certainly can. But they would have to then, just like the council, make the request and have it go up through the chain.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, PAC members, for jumping in on that, but I wanted to, that was a huge takeaway I had from our last discussion. other PAC members' questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilor Hawk.
I know it shocks you that I would have a comment or a question. And so I just looked on my email and I don't see that this was sent to me at 11, but perhaps maybe I got it mixed up with some other. But scrolling down there, it said something about information or data that it would take the department head, they would have to wait for the Board of Commissioners to approve that being released. Oh, what? Did I read that right? And so many times the different departments will send the data out as, you know, to the county council or to, you know, it's just a part of what they have on their site as well. And that's public information. And any one of us should be able to speak on that. We should not have to run it through the Board of Commissioners to get permission to speak. And I won't, just an FYI. If I see information that has been presented or was a part of a public meeting, I intend to speak on it if I feel like that is something I should do. And I hope all of the council feels that way, because that's really a part of what we are elected to do. They expect to hear from the elected official, not some hired person to be our voice. And while if the county commissioners wants to spend extra dollars, and if we feel like there's extra dollars with the annexation hanging over our head, to put on a whole brand new position, then that certainly would be up to you. But I don't think you can put anything together here, no matter what you put together, that would stop us from presenting information to the public. Now, what this might actually do is stop the different department heads from wanting different elected officials to have their information, and that would be wrong too. Because
May I respond?
Please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, this person and the Board of Commissioners would never make a decision about what information is released for the county council. The only decision the commissioners would make would be whether or not the project request by council was going to be done at that point in time, or if there was another project that was taking precedence. At no point in time is this person speaking for an elected official, which is why the elected officials who've requested the information, so that's why I say on here, if the council has made a request, the council has to approve the data that is going to be given, and you guys are the ones that are going to give it. This person isn't going to want to necessarily speak all the time for you guys. And there's going to be certain messages that they aren't going to want, that it's not theirs to give, but they can maybe help you get the information you're looking for. And so I want to make sure you understand that there is absolutely, this person is not speaking for you. They're only getting the information you've requested if they can.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Hawk, and then we'll jump over.
Also, any delay in getting public information out there is not conducive to representing the public as well as we should. This looks like, okay, which part is, well, how much of a delay will it be before if somebody has, let's say if the assessor has something that is, she's compiled with some kind of a report, and it's out there, she wants to share it with the council and with the commissioners, and she wants to take it to the public. Well, she have to decide every time she wants to go public or something, that if she's already agreed that she's going to have her work, I don't. Anyway, I'm not in favor of this, but I will try my best to be pleasant.
Councilor Spoonmore, sorry, go ahead, Ms. Purdy, then Councilor Spoonmore.
Sorry, you just have to say that is not at all how this position would work. There is any delay of the information is just to ensure that the information that's going to be shared is in fact shareable, and is accurate as to the best of the people who own and retain that information is capable of providing. You don't want to become the ownership of somebody else's data and have it be wrong data. You don't want to be speaking for another department. That's not your job. That's not the commissioner's job. This position is purely if information has been requested, it's imperative that we as the county government do our due diligence in making sure that the information that's going to be provided back is accurate and that it's appropriate to be shared. Not everything that is asked is appropriate to be shared. It's just not. Even though most of our stuff is public, there are some things that are not public.
Councilor Spoonmore.
So thank you, sir. Just to go back to Ms. Purdy's earlier comments, just want to throw a hypothetical out there and try to, respond the best way that you can. But so as a member of county council, if I get called by a local broadcaster in the news business or something, and they want to interview me, live, and they give me about, 12 hours advance notice of that interview, I could contact this person and say, I need, all this information to be able to address these questions that I'm about to be asked. And then, that could be a lot of work. I mean, we could be talking about hours and hours of work, pulling all this information together. So that request then would need to be approved by the commissioners based on the current workload of that person. And the commissioners may say, this is crazy. There's no way we can get to this in 12 hours so that you can do your interview. But, if this is coming up in, 2 weeks or, 10 days from now, maybe then they might be able to get to it in time so that all the data is accurate. And is that kind of what we're discussing here, how you see this process working? But it's not meant to, and if you can't get to it in time for my interview, then I just have to kind of do my own thing. And I can go find my own information, I guess, but that's kind of how is that how you see this as well?
That would be how I would see it. I'm a little hesitant to say, if you as an individual gets asked a question, but I would like to think that it would be something that the council is dealing with as a whole. And it's something that the council as a whole would want that information. So I think that, yes.
So it would be, it would be some kind of a council that would apply entirely to the council. Sometimes, there's individual requests that are made, but I guess that request, you're saying that request then from the individual will go to the council, and the council would agree by a majority that, yes, we want this position to kind of work on fielding these data requests.
Yes, but I also think that there's a lot of information that is shared by the commissioners and the council. And so, it may be something that is that research, because whatever it is that the paper, the media is asking for, that's going to be probably touching both branches, both entities. So I think in something like that, maybe this is where we talk it through. How do we handle that particular situation? Because both entities and all members are going to want to know that information. It's not going to be specific to you as the person. It's actually, you're speaking as the president of your board. So right. I think that I can see how something like that would be beneficial to every member of the board that would potentially need that information.
Got it.
I do want to make the comment. First of all, I appreciate Ms. Purdy making some clarity in this document that indicates very frankly that this office does not replace the elected officials such as the treasurer, the assessor, the auditor, the clerk, the important offices that, my heavens, I wouldn't want to speak for them. I wouldn't want to give a job to someone to speak to them, but that clarity is there. I will make this point. We are a large county system, and we have just gone through a great deal with this pandemic, a lot of communication, a lot of things going on. That's not going away. That is not changing. Every one of our departments are going to have those issues. I say this because I believe this position not only would be necessary, but will be a work in progress as we figure out the details of how that works. I'll also say that not responding adequately to the public on large amounts of data that we don't individually know or cannot compile as a department or what have you, that won't cut it. It won't cut it in 5 years, 10 years, and it doesn't do it today. So I think there's some ground to work from here. I'll open it back up to the other PAC members for other comments or suggestions. Yes, Councillor Hawk.
Yes, this appears to me, and I'm being skeptical, of course, but nothing new about that, that the Board of Commissioners or the council wants to pick and choose from which issue they believe is more important to take to the public. And so right away, I'm not in favor of this, just simply because of that. The earlier rendition of this was that it would have to be approved by the county administrator before it could be published. I felt that was very wrong indeed. She's had enough on her hands, and what if we had something really important we need to get out immediately? But even if we weren't talking about any of that, what I think we should be considering right now, because this is something that we know today that we did not know when this was first discussed, and that is that the city intends to move forward with the annexation, and that means that our revenue is going to be cut rather drastically, and that means that we need to take a stronger look at any brand new positions we might consider. Because when we know that we're going to have our revenue cut for all these major departments having to do with annexation, we don't have room to start adding brand new positions on. Unless we see some other position we no longer need, and we'll just like remove them and replace them with this one, and we feel like it's the highest and best use of the dollars. And I want also ask if there was any other such position as this in any other county our size, and I did not, and I have not received that information.
I do know that Hamilton County has a contract with someone. They don't actually work for, they're not an employee of their county government. This is something that I reached out to Association of Indiana Counties, and I'd be happy to share the email I received from them. They think it's a fabulous idea. They see more and more counties are going to be needing this kind of position, just because of, the public does need and wants more information. So I'll be happy. I think it was Stephanie Yeager I got that email from, because I'd asked her if there were any others within county government. I'll be happy to share that email with the board here to find it first.
I really think that there will be ways that these different departments that wanted to get out information, but they didn't want to do a live interview on radio, or they didn't want to go to the press with a press release, that there ought to be a place, a communal place where that information could be linked to, so that let's say if you're the press and you don't want to watch all these meetings, but you want to know what's the latest thing going on, whether it's with solid waste or the Monroe Fire District, or, whether or not we're planning to buy a different, do something different with county government, there ought to be a place that the press could go to, or the public could go to, and think, well, what's the latest thing? And be able to do that on our website without spending dollars for another new position, because this could be quite expensive. once again, I am not in favor of this, but I am in favor of getting out information to the public timely.
Okay, thank you very much. So one item of note I'll make is that, as Ms. Rice has pointed out, that the council will have to ultimately approve this job description before it becomes a reality. This is the, I think, third step for this go round, and there looks to be about 3 to 4 more. We have not heard from WIS. WIS would be able to look at those other entities that we're talking about. WIS also would be able to help us shape this up to the format that we want fully before we get there. At this time, I'll ask for any will of this pack or other things. Councilor Spoonmore.
I'll just make a comment first and then I'll have a motion. But I do support, at the minimum, sending this off to WIS for their review and classification analysis. I support that because I've heard from an overwhelming majority of council, I believe, that there's interest in this position. I don't know that everyone has indicated that they absolutely, 100% want to add it, but I've heard that there's, interest in kind of moving forward with this position. We've all heard about the annexation proposal by now, and I have not heard of any other, well, I haven't heard from a majority of council members that have said put the brakes on this because of annexation. So I'm interested in kind of moving forward just to get WIS's insight on the classification. So if I may, I'll make a motion that we send this job description for WIS to WIS for their classification review.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I will go ahead and second that. So with a motion and a second, is there any further discussion on agenda item number 1, 2? Yes, Councilor Hawk.
I think it would be far more respectful to the entire council to see if their thoughts are still the same, considering that we're looking at a different revenue stream now than we were when they all thought this was a good idea. But if that's not what you folks want, let's say we spend this money on doing this and putting this together. That could be money just down the tube, but move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote to send this to WIS.
On the motion to move forward to sending this to WIS for classification, Spoonmore,
Yes.
Hawk,
No.
Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed majority.
All
Thank
right.
you, guys.
Thank you very much. That'll be continued to be a work in progress. We go now to another information facing position that's being added or being contemplated for addition. Item number 3, I want to thank Captain Davis for coming back to PAC. I think this is the second time to council for one time. Given that you have discussed this a little bit fairly extensively, Captain Davis, I'd invite you to say any more words you might have since our last gathering, and then maybe we could have some questions.
Not necessarily anything new that wasn't discussed in front of the entire council, but when that concluded, I did speak with the sheriff about some of the immediate questions and or concerns that the council had proposed to me during that presentation. And I think one of the bigger ones was the concern about the education requirement for this job description. And like I had alluded to at the council meeting last week, I agree. And the sheriff also stated that he agreed and would be looking forward to what WISC had to say in the event this was sent to them for their review.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open this up to questions from PAC members. I have one, but I'm not going to butt in like I did the last time. I apologize. Questions from PAC. Go ahead, Councilor Hawk.
I expect that WIS will be able to make a determination of what kind of education should be required of this position, and they'll assist us with that. So I don't think that's a major problem at all.
Okay. That sounds great.
Anyone, any other question or comment before I butt in with mine? All right, let me ask you this, Captain Davis. And this gets back to actually the first job. I look at both of these, the first one on our agenda, I look at both of these and I see the public, that we're public facing and that we have to respond to. And let me ask you this, do you see this as a position with a public facing component to answer those questions that county councilors who are not qualified to speak on policing, law enforcement, crime, do you see this as something that could respond to those questions?
We do not. We see this position as the information gathering component to be given to either the sheriff or myself. The sheriff and I kind of split the responsibility of public information officer or media point of contact. So we see this job as compiling the raw data or statistical or whatever the particular request may be, and giving that information to us to then put out to the public.
Okay, that's great. And that's, I'm not asking this person to be out in front as a public spokesperson, but to help you do the job in talking to the public about the information the public wants to know. And it sounds like that's the spirit of that. Okay, because again, Trent Deckard, at-large council member, cannot speak for the sheriff nor what happens in a patrol car. I'm absolutely abysmally qualified for that. Other questions or comments from PAC members? Councilor Hawk.
Yes, just wanted to make it clear, I do not consider this position at all as it relates to the last position. The last position was taking data that the other departments have put together. This is saying they need someone in their department to put the data together, completely different animals. This could then, we understand that their funding is not always tied to county general. It's also mixed in, as a part of public safety. So we're going to see a cut in both of those budgets. I mean, both of those revenue sources. But I believe if we're going to spend it on anything, we ought to be spending it on public safety, law enforcement, all of that, in my opinion, comes first.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilor Hawk. And I do think that we are looking at this and actually seeing similar things in that vein on the public component, but maybe we're talking about it differently, and that's okay. Any other comments or the will of this PAC?
Mr. Deckard, I'll move to forward this job description to WIS for their classification review.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further comments from PAC members? Seeing none, we will go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
Thank you very much. We now move to our final item, and thank you, Captain Davis, for being here for the 400th time. You've got good spirit with that.
Not a problem at all. Thank you for your time.
All right, take care. We now move on to number 4, the very controversial approval of minutes. I want to offer the council to make any comments about minutes if you have any comments or concerns. Having read those minutes, I'd entertain a motion to approve them because they look splendid.
Mr. Deckard, I move approval of the summary minutes as presented.
All right, we've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'm trying to remember when I read the minutes. There's been so much going on. I just can't hold my head up through it, but
There's
Okay.
a lot. There is a lot. We have a motion and a second. If there's no further comments, we will do a roll call vote on item 4.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous.
All right. And that takes us to finally item 5 for any past PAC member comments. Does anyone have any final comments before we adjourn? I do want to make just one comment. I want to thank the elected officials and department heads that have provide input to PAC so that we can assist in doing our jobs better. I think this last 2 meetings was a good example of that. Things do take longer, but again, we are having public discussions about questions facing the county and positions, and I hope that that helps in some small way. If there's no other comments, I want to thank all PAC members and Michelle, Ms. Rice, and everyone else, and we will now be adjourned. Thank you so much.